Is Kenya a colony of the country called Uganda? I am asking because of the events that have taken place in Kenya concerning a Ugandan citizen, involving Ugandan soldiers right here on Kenyan soil, that has raised disturbing questions for the Ruto regime. Because it is one thing to have close working relationship with a foreign country, a neighboring country. To have the president of that neighboring country as your mentor, that is quite another issue. And it is a very different issue. For security personnel from that foreign country to behave on Kenyan soil, like they're Kenyans. How does that happen? Indeed, this has become a major controversy, a major storm amongst patriotic Kenyans who are just asking one question after the other, and yet there is no response from the government. None at all. At least by the time I came in to make this recording. Actually, what has unfolded here is completely unheard of. Maybe it has happened in the past, and if it did, it remained secret. Okay? It never came out. And therefore, I'm accurate in saying this is unheard of. But let us dive deep into this so that we understand a few issues that may not be very clear to all of us. Now, for starters, intelligence services of different countries usually work together. That is normal. That is to be expected. Indeed, it would be very difficult for them to fulfill their mandates, to do any work, without close cooperation with foreign intelligence services. And this happens all over the world. Now, in the 80s, there was an assassination attempt on a Rwandan national in Kenya. I believe it happened somewhere along Luthuli Avenue. Let us take a closer look at that so that we understand. Sometimes a foreign intelligence service can inform the host intelligence service of what they want to do and what they are about to do. And sometimes they can be given the go-ahead to do it. Okay? However, what I have never heard of, and you need to correct me, what I have never heard of is a foreign security service working with the host country to organize an abduction. Hiyo sijasikia, correct me. And that is precisely what happened. In the case of Kizza Besigye, an opposition leader in Uganda, indeed is a veteran opposition leader. He has been at it for a long time, fighting the dictatorial regime of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. That is precisely what happened in his case. And surprise, surprise, not only was he abducted on Kenyan soil, he was transported all the way to the Busia border. And of course the borders of a country are manned by security personnel of the home country. And these people crossed the border, cleared Kenyan immigration and Kenyan security at the border. They cleared that, crossed the border and into Uganda. Where we are told Besigye was taken into some military barracks and went before a court-martial. How does that happen? Unless Kenya is a province, a colony, part of the country called Uganda. How else could it happen? Explain to me, I understand. And this the anger, disbelief, I don't even know what else to call it, that has gone right across the country over this incident. And remember, this is coming at a time when we have our own internal issues with this government. mostly linked and related to mismanagement of our country, taking the country in the wrong direction, not having a clue on how to govern. Now, of course, we should never forget that Uganda is an independent African country, a different country from Kenya, and we Kenyans should never interfere in the internal affairs. But having said that, I think it is important for us to analyze what triggered this very desperate move by our neighbors to grab a man called Besigye on Kenyan soil. In fact, bang in the middle of Nairobi, they grabbed Besigye. I'm sure over the last few days, other countries have been laughing at Kenya. Kenya is a laughing stock. I'm sure they're wondering, what is going on in that banana republic? Eh? People just come in, they do what they want, foreigners, and then they leave. And nothing happens. And it seems that they're getting the cooperation of the home government. What is wrong with those people in Nairobi? Do they know what they're doing? These are the discussions, I can assure you, that are taking place right across the globe. Lakini kwa sababu tumechokozwa, because we have been provoked, I think Kenyans deserve to know why Museveni is desperate. Because I also believe it is instructive and it will also help us to understand our situation in Kenya a little better. Now, I want you to cast your memory back to the year 2018. You remember the problems which opposition leader, the young opposition leader, Bobi Wine, had in Uganda? Do you remember those problems? I'm sure you do. My next question, do you remember who was President of the United States of America at that time that Bobi Wine was getting all these problems? Maybe you don't remember. The president then was Donald Trump. Fast forward to the present. We have the same man who is now a president-elect. He is due to move into the White House and to start governing in a couple of weeks, in January the year 2025. Now, do you think there is a link well worth taking note of? I think so. And let me put it like this. It is much more than just Donald Trump's foreign policy, especially Donald Trump's foreign policy over Africa. It is much more than that. Okay? You see, the people who have supported Yoweri Museveni, the people who got him into power, the people who have supported him and defended him and ignored mostly his terrible human rights record, are not the people in the Trump camp. Okay? Let me just put it like that. And therefore, what Museveni is being faced with here is a race against time. He must deal with his political opponents conclusively before January 20th, 2025. I think now you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. And I think now you understand a lot more why Yoweri Museveni, President of Uganda, may be so desperate as to carry out such a move of desperation as abducting a Ugandan national on foreign soil. And in my opinion, this should also be very instructive, especially for those of us who rubbished my early analysis on the impact a Donald Trump presidency would have on the country called Kenya and on Africa in general. It should tell you something. And I will even go further. It should also give you an idea of the state of mind of the regime in Kenya, which has been supported by the same people who have been supporting Yoweri Kaguta Museveni all along. Remember, Museveni has been Ruto's mentor. Okay, last year they had a major falling out, or so it seemed, over oil prices. Bila kizungu mingi, the Kenyan government tried to rope in Uganda into their G2G deal, government-to-government deal of purchasing petroleum products. And Museveni just said no, because by the time this fuel arrived in Uganda, it was too expensive for Ugandans. And Museveni let the cat out of the bag, because he told us his problem with Kenya is that petrol is being handled by brokers, middlemen. You remember that statement? Yes, I'm sure you do. Although they had that falling out, the truth is Museveni and Ruto remain close allies. And now with the recent developments on the world stage, it makes a lot of sense for them to even come closer together to find a way to survive what is coming. It just makes perfect sense. And therefore this abduction on Kenyan soil of a Ugandan national starts to clear up in our minds, and we start to understand more and more about how this crazy development would actually have taken place and why. But still, I am not making excuses for the Kenyan government. Still, that can never be an excuse in 100 years. And therefore, we now need to focus on a very simple question. It is clear that what Museveni did on Kenyan soil was done with the permission of the Kenyan government. Because how else did they cross the border? You tell me. How else did they pull off such an operation, without any interference from our security boys? How? Indeed, they may even have had cooperation. So, the Kenyan government must have assisted Museveni in doing what he did. Now, there are so many problems with that, including legal problems. Because how did the Kenyan government allow a foreign government to carry out such an operation on Kenyan soil? What law did they use to allow such a thing to happen? How? How did it happen? Hey! You can think you have so much power that you can do anything. And indeed, you can even go ahead and do it. But in my opinion, it is wise to note that some of these things can catch up with you later. Because you're not going to be president of the country forever. And even if you get life presidency, you're not going to live forever. Nobody lives forever. And therefore, the consequences of what took place, even if you're no longer on this planet, the consequences of what has taken place may have to fall on others who are following your orders. That is a key point to note. And it is the truth. Because honestly speaking, if you go and do something that never happened during the reign of Jomo Kenyatta, never happened during the reign of Moi, both were dictators, never happened during Kibaki's years, never happened under Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and now you want to do it, and you're comfortable with it, and maybe you're saying to yourself, watadu? Kwani mtadu nini? And you're saying that to yourself, I think you have a problem with the reality. I think you do not understand a lot of very key things about what it means to be a government in charge of people, some of whom cast their votes for you, and even those who did not vote for you. You have a responsibility. And the truth is, you're going to be taken to task. You're going to even be judged over what you did, even long after you're gone. Which means the family you leave behind, you leave them in problems. Yeah, because you can reach a situation where you become desperate to change your name, not to be associated with somebody. Oh yes, such things have happened in history in the past. I think it is important that one considers all these factors. I mean, even if it is true that Besigye was actually plotting and planning to overthrow Museveni in our neighboring country, then at least he should have been picked up by Kenyan security authorities and then handed over. But to have Ugandans come to Kenya and do the job for themselves, cross the border into Kenya, and then cross the border back to their country, you too much. And you know, Kenyans have been demanding for an explanation which is not forthcoming, which so far the government is very slow in moving. And yet this is a very serious matter. You know, when something is serious, you respond immediately. You can even come out and say, we are releasing a statement shortly, to show people you're serious. But then this silence, this is too much. In my opinion, I don't think we'll get an explanation. Yeah. And even if one comes, I do not believe, I need to be proved wrong, I do not believe that we're going to get an explanation that will be satisfactory. I don't think so. Now please allow me to talk briefly about a problem that some of us are facing. I've done my research and I've realized many people here have that problem. You want to sell off a property, but the problem is, where do you find your potential buyers? Where do you find serious prospects, your potential buyers? Now, for some reason, we have had a lot of success on this channel with people who are selling property, sponsoring our videos. And it is a win-win situation. You support this channel, but then also you solve a problem that may not be very easy to solve. If you fall into this category, you can see details on your screens right now. Please get in touch with me and we see whether we can be able to help you solve your problem. And for those of us who don't fall into that category, there is something else. On my show today, I have been talking a lot about character, and the impact that that character has on events and even on the success or failure of the job you have before you. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Now, in one of my earlier special reports, highly sensitive special reports, I went into great detail to discuss the character of number one, the character of the President of the Republic of Kenya. Now, I know many of us may have missed that special report, but in my opinion, it is very instructive. It will help you to see very clearly. Even the Embu drama, you'll be able to see it so clearly. And now you have an opportunity. If you missed that particular special report, even if you missed the latest one, and if you missed others that you wanted to take a look at, for instance, the assassination of the late General Gola. Yes, it was an assassination. Okay? And many of the very controversial things that were brought up in that highly sensitive video have stood the test of time. If you want all these highly sensitive special reports, take a look at the details on your screens right now and take action. Okay? For only Kenya shillings 1,999, you can have the whole lot. Please rush and take advantage, because, as you know, this offer is coming to an end at any time. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.